Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Zones 33 and 34 and more Zoomformation call for July. Today is Monday, July the 6th, and I get a chance to say Happy New Year. It's the beginning of a new Rotary year, and a special welcome to our newest governors from all of the districts who are on the phone, as well as all of you who have accepted new roles for your Rotary Club, district, or zone. It's such a pleasure to have all of you on the call today as we start a new Rotary year, and we're going to be looking for more opportunities. So I wanted now to ask Peter if he will introduce our cameo guest, if our guest is with us. Peter.
Thanks, Stephanie. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me echo Stephanie's welcome. Happy new Rotary year. Great to see so many familiar faces on the screen, and I also look forward to working with each of you over the next year and indeed 2 years. So I'm hoping that Alex Wilkins, our cameo guest, is on the line, but I don't see him at the moment. Alex, are you there?
Yes, sir. Alex is on.
Alex is on. Well, it's my great pleasure now to introduce our cameo guest for today, Alex Wilkins. Alex, of course, is probably well known to most of you. Alex is quite an extraordinary fellow. I was going through his CV, and he has an amazing Rotary and non-Rotary CV. He is a Marine, and I have a lot of respect for people who served in the military, especially in the Marines. He's been actively involved with Boy Scouts. He's actively involved in his church. He's involved in so many things. In Rotary, he, of course, was a past district governor in 2015-16, and he's been heavily involved in public image activities ever since. A long background in district activities, very much involved in a very exciting project in Jamaica. But he's here today to talk about public image and other things that you hear about. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce Alex and invite Alex to take over. Thanks, Alex. Welcome.
Thank you, Director. I appreciate it very much. The directors have asked me to discuss Feed 10 Million. Feed 10 Million is the this year's version of Feeding Our Own. Last year, we specifically called it 10 Million Meal Challenge. We're continuing that effort. The public image teams in Zone 33 and 34 are going to facilitate that for the districts. If you're a district governor-elect, district governor nominee, you received a personal email from the directors on July the 1st with attachments on that explained specifically how we were going to move forward. It's very simple. We're going to focus on the clubs. Clubs, as we all know, are the bedrock of what we do, and clubs are out feeding their communities. Slight differences in what we do. You know, every year we refine and we improve based on what the community is asking us to do and what the community is looking for. What we've moved forward on this year is the opportunity to simply capture the number of meals your club feeds its neighborhood. Money's not the question we're asking. Number of man hours is not necessarily the question we're asking. We're asking you to capture everything in the currency, if you will, of meals. Tell us how many meals you served, how many you provided, how many opportunities you had to provide a service that provided a meal for an individual. Because we all know that the currency, US currency, or wherever you happen to live, a dollar is going to go further in some places than it does another. So we moved off of currency and onto meals. That's all we're looking to capture is meals, because we all know across the 1,700 plus clubs in these two zones, we all know that we feed 10 million meals throughout the year. What we're trying to do is capture the data in two places, Rotary Club Central and on our own Zone 33, 34 webpage under a Google form that's been created already. All of those instructions are ready to go. All we're looking for now from the PI teams at Zone 33 and 34 is the district leadership to provide us with the name of who your district Feed 10 Million champion is going to be for the year. Within a week, we'll send a reminder if you haven't provided that name so that we can get started. All we're looking to do is facilitate what the clubs do, help that particular district's Feed 10 Million champion chase down, if you will, those clubs and make sure there's a point of contact so that we know what they're doing and we know what they're feeding. Again, it's simply a currency of meals and an opportunity to capture what we do and continue it as best we can. Any questions? Thanks very much for the opportunity. Looking forward to facilitating meals across the districts and in both zones. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Alex.
directors.
I do have a
Thanks,
question.
Alex. Great presentation. This is a great project, and I'd like to give a shout out to past Rotary International Director David Stovall. This was his initiative 2 years ago, and Stephanie and I are delighted to be able to continue with it. It's a wonderful project. So thanks, Alex. And now back to Stephanie.
Thanks both Peter and Alex. We did see one question in the chat pane before we move on. Alex, we had a question. Where does the name go? To whom does the name get supplied? Does it go directly to you?
Yes, ma'am. If you're in Zone 33, thank you very much for the question. Zone 33, send it to me. And if you're in Zone 34, send it to Marshall Butler, the Zone 33 or Zone 34 Public Image Coordinator.
Okay, thanks again, Alex. It's great, and thanks for spearheading a wonderful effort. All right,
Yes,
the world starts in our backyard, so it's so important that we take care of folks and then, you know, go beyond. So thank you so much. It's now my pleasure to introduce our program for the day. You know, when past director and Rotary International Treasurer David Stovall and Peter and I started these calls sometime, I think it was in March, we were able to bring so many Rotary leaders who gave us lots of inspiration and lots of information. Today's program is going to be very practical, whether you're in Zone 33 and 34 or outside of Zone 33 or 34. You'll hear information today that is practical and that is hands-on and that you can use. If you're a non-Rotarian on the call, I want you to pay attention because this is messaging to you about how Rotary cares for its members. So I'm very happy to introduce our program today. It's entitled Engage and Adapt for Club Growth. And it's going to be led by our Rotary Zone coordinators. So I'm honored right now to introduce our Zone 33 coordinator, Patrick Eakes, who will start us off. Patrick, it's yours. Patrick, you have to unmute.
I did, and then I got muted again. Sorry about that. Thank you, Stephanie, for that introduction and setting us up. We are happy to have the opportunity today to talk about membership growth and in particular engagement and adapting to facilitate that growth. You know, engagement of Rotary Club members is a topic that's been a part of discussions and training for several years, but membership engagement continues to be important. A club that engages its members will retain those members and help lower the membership attrition rate. And the same club that engages its members will also be more vibrant and will therefore attract more new members. And both lowering the attrition and increasing the attraction of members are the result of the same tactic, engaging members effectively. Engagement can take many forms, from focusing on newer and younger members to creating professional networking opportunities. My particular favorite is engaging the families of Rotarians, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I think it's a great hook to keep Rotarians excited, and in my case, I have a personal story that really reinforces that. My club, which is the Crescent Rotary Club in North Carolina in District 7690, has always focused its community service projects to be family-centered. And as soon as my eldest child was old enough to participate, I took Sarah to a project at a local homeless shelter. They were smart enough to put me in the back actually preparing the food and not out front. And they were smart enough to have her out refilling tea and water. And she had never particularly been around homeless population. She was 8 years old at the time. And when I asked her on the way home, you know, what did you think? And it was quiet for a couple of beats. And then she said, that was awesome. She really, it was meaningful to her. And I knew that the service gene that is in all of us had been activated. Well, since then, she has taken part in a number of meal packing and other ways of feeding our community, our local community. And it is really given me great pride to see her huge heart and all that she's been able to do in that area. And then starting at age 9, past Governor Cookie Billings put her on stage at our district conference as a 9-year-old. And that started a run of 6 years where she was on stage in some form at our district conference. And now I have this incredibly confident 16-year-old in my house who actually was just hired for a summer job that has a minimum age of 18. And it's because of her confidence and her maturity largely through these experiences through Rotary. So for me, that is a huge part of the engagement of Rotary. It's made my membership more valuable. It's caused my entire family to be engaged in Rotary. And frankly, even if I wanted to leave Rotary now, Sarah wouldn't allow it. She would absolutely veto it. So I encourage all of you who are district leaders who are working with clubs to keep planning, you know, having a written and a well-conceived membership plan in place for your clubs, but to be sure that membership engagement is right at the center point of those plans, because it is going to have a distinct effect on our club's ability to retain and to attract new members. So again, I encourage you to make that a center point as you work with your clubs, that engagement piece. Now, I'm going to turn the program over to Ron Pierce, who is a past president of the Guilford Rotary Club in the same district I'm in, 7690. He served as president in 1819, and he was a transformational president for his club, largely because of the way he designed the engagement piece for his club. So he's going to talk to us about that. I will mention that last year, 1920, Ron served as a membership advocate for his area of the district, and he is now 6 days into becoming, or 6 days as an assistant governor. So he's a newbie as an assistant governor, but he's a master on membership engagement. So Ron, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm still getting used to talking on Zoom calls. I don't know if everybody else is, but I'm one of these kind of people who, when you're in a meeting or you're doing like this, I like to move around and talk. And I have learned that if I do that, it does not go very well in a Zoom meeting. So trying to sit still and do Zoom meetings, I look like Elvis because everything below the screen is moving, but nothing above is happening. So let me just kind of briefly tell you a little bit about where we were at, and I'm going to share my screen here and bring up the presentation. And let's see here. Everybody should be able to see PowerPoint on the screen now. It says increasing membership and our secret sauce for growth. This is kind of where we were at. And we went to a membership summit and for our district and got the numbers, and I was the president-elect coming in, and I was seeing all these great numbers, and then I was starting to see a trend, and I wasn't liking the trend that I was seeing because by the time I was taking over in 2019, we had dropped down to 40 members, and everybody knows that rule that says that, you know, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. And so looking at that, that was not a good rule for us there because we were going to be in that 8 to 12 people showing up to do things. And once it got below that, it was very hard to do anything. So I knew we had to turn the numbers around if we were going to do anything in our club. So I knew the first thing we were going to have to change our mindset. And for any of the Rotary International officers, I apologize if this offends you, but this was kind of what I had to do. I had to change this mindset of how many people we need in the club. Because if we were only going to add one person to our club, that is basically keeping life support going. That is not going to grow the club, and that's not going to help the community. So we had to get rid of that mindset. So this is the mindset I brought in when I came into as president. This is how many people we're going to add to the club. Now, we had lost 6 the year before. So in essence, in order to go up at least plus 10, we were going to have to gain, and knowing that the attrition rate was going to be probably somewhere around 14%, we were going to have to probably actually add about 15 members to our club. So we knew we were going to have to change something. I can tell you that when I brought Steve, I hadn't seen Bob in like 2 months. And next thing you know, they found out that they had quit, because we love to tell people join, but we will not share when someone leaves the club. So we had to have a come to Jesus meeting and talk about that. And we did. We basically said, look, if we don't change things, we will be dead. And the elders of our club, the ones that I call the originals in the club came up to me afterwards and said, Ron, what do we need to do? Because I didn't exclude them from the planning. I had been working for a year in finding out, picking their brain, what did they remember most, what did they love. So by the time I took presidency, I had the originals on my side. And they basically said, Ron, we don't want the club to die. What do we need to do? And I said, well, I'm going to need your participation. I can't have you sitting at your table doing absolutely nothing anymore. You have got to do something, and I'm going to put you to work. And they went, okay, put us to work. And they did. And I can tell you that anything a club does to turn itself around, if the originals are not behind it and involved, it will not work. So don't ever plan something that excludes them just because you don't think they will get on board. It may take them a little time, but they at least, if you encourage them and incorporate them, the worst that should happen is that they just kind of fold their hands and go, well, we'll just see if it works, but they won't try to stop you. The thing that I realized, though, after I went to Toronto and listened to one of the speakers there, was that membership growth was possibly not really my problem, because one of the speakers used the term PTS, problem to solve. And he said that normally what you think is your problem is actually a symptom. And so I started thinking about it. And I went, well, what is a symptom? If the symptom is membership growth, what's the problem? So this is what we had to come up with. Declining membership was not the problem. It was our symptom. What the problem was is we'd lost our passion and purpose in being Rotarians. I can pretty much guarantee you that if I ask somebody, could you be at the golf course on Saturday, they will rearrange their schedule and make that happen. If they're passionate about golf, it's going to happen, especially if you're Patrick and you actually are really good at it and can take a little money from people. Yeah, it happens. But if I tell you, can you be at a Rotary event, if you have no passion, you're not going to show up. So I knew we had to re-engage the passion and the purpose back into our club. I had to get people excited about being Rotarians again, because a club like this, just we weren't focused on helping others. We'd eat, we'd listen to speakers, do an occasional big project and write a check, but that was it. And that was all they had basically come to see Rotary as for the last 5 years. There was no passion about being a Rotarian. So I knew we had to get back to our roots. So what was our roots? Well, let's be honest. The whole purpose of Rotary was to grow business. That was the original plan. And I'd be willing to bet the majority of people who joined Rotary probably joined Rotary, at least if they had not retired yet, were there for networking and to grow their business. So we knew that we had to bring that back into the Rotary Club. We had to bring networking back in. And like I always told our group, the helping people actually would join a Rotary Club. One is primarily going to be your networking, grow the business. The second one, you're helping the community. You're looking for a way to give back. Third is you want to network, and you want, and I say network and socialize, meet new friends. So all of those ways are why people join. If they weren't getting that, they weren't going to join. So we had to make sure that whatever we did, it had to incorporate those three areas, and it had to be equal in those three areas. We couldn't just focus on one thing. So I reminded our club that everybody listens to WIIFM, What's in It for Me. And so if you don't point the club in that direction and make sure that you're going after what's in it for the person who wants to join, they will not join. And guess what? People are still looking for those three things, and it hasn't changed even from the beginning. So we had to change our focus in our club and our weekly meetings. So we changed our recipe, and this is what I started throwing into place. The first thing is that we did away with some speakers. Instead of a speaker every week, we came up with what we called micro projects. And this is harder, but not impossible to do with what we're dealing with COVID right now. But it basically says instead of working or listening to someone speak for 30 minutes, we're going to work on a project, and we're going to help somebody in the community there while everybody are meeting together. So one of the classic examples is that we did coloring books for kids in the hospital. So I bought the coloring books, I brought the crayons, I put the coloring books and the crayons on the tables. I told each member, grab a coloring book, grab a pack of crayons. I want you to color a picture. And so they would rip a picture out of the coloring book, they colored it, and then we put the coloring book, the crayons, and the page in a Ziploc bag. And one of the things I asked each one of the people to do is I want you to sign your picture, put your name on the picture, and put how old you are, which is great to see an original who hasn't colored since the grandchildren sitting there at the table just having a great time coloring a picture. And then they put Larry, age 80, on there. And then we donated them all to the hospital, local hospital. We did it for two reasons. One, the kids love the coloring books. They're sick, they get something to do it. But the parents loved it because here's a picture that an 80-year-old colored for their kid, and they've never seen an 80-year-old who had color pictures anymore. It brings humor and laughter, and it made them feel better. And if you've ever had a sick kid in the hospital, you know that laughter is hard to come by. So this was one of the things we did. These are the kind of projects we came up with. What's simple, easy, that can be done in 30 minutes or less and help the community. The next thing we did was we became very guest-centered. We do Rotary meetings, and we forget that if there's a guest in the room, they have no clue why we do what we do. So if we're sitting there doing the four-way test, what it looks like to them is that we are praying to the yellow banner, and they have no clue what the yellow banner is. So we started explaining why we do things in the Rotary meeting, and we made sure that everyone felt very much a part of the meeting. Another thing we ran into is I guarantee you in your club, if you have a meal, that people sit at the same tables and they have the same conversations every week. How's your kids? How's your wife? How's the job? So what we started doing is we put little cards on the table. That envelope, you open up the card from the envelope and it would have a question on there. What's your favorite book of all time? Or who is the best television character or the funniest television character? It was random every week. And everyone at the table got a chance to answer that question. If you had a guest at the table, they finally got to participate in the conversation. Because you know as well as I do that members don't normally talk to guests because for some reason we've lost that ability. So this allowed everyone to be on equal footing, and everyone got to participate, and our guests felt like they were participating in the actual meeting, which finally they were. We also did something called weekly drawings, where we'd have a slip of paper, they'd fill it out, we'd put it in there, and I'd have gift cards anywhere from 10 to $100. We'd randomly pull a slip out. Granted, you could not win unless you were present, so that included attendance. But basically what they would do is they'd write on a slip of paper anything they had done to help the community that week. Didn't matter how many hours, minutes, and it didn't matter if it was a Rotary banner. We just wanted to know that they were helping people. This encouraged them to do service outside of the club, and it also allowed them to be rewarded. And the other thing is that, as you and I both know, if you have 50-50 drawings or something like that in your club, once somebody wins, everybody comes up and asks them for the money if they're going to plan on donating to Rotary. And so you get a guilt trip. With the gift card, nobody comes up to you for are you going to donate that $10 gift card to a gas station card to Rotary? You actually got to keep something and felt good about keeping it. So it helped encourage attendance as well, and our attendance rates increased in our meeting. The other thing was we got very serious about recruiting. You can't have 15 new people coming in if you don't get serious. So we did the monthly Discover Rotary Days. We partnered with another Rotary Club. We did the same PowerPoint presentation every time. We invited people into that presentation. We usually do it an hour before our Rotary Club meeting and then go. And then we added a service-only membership category, and this was huge. Basically, you did not have to attend the Rotary meetings. You could be there just and participate in the service project. And we dropped the fee from $200+ a month to 75, or $200+ a quarter to 75. This was huge. So basically, you could come up to a new person and say, "Hey, would you like to be part of my Rotary Club?" You'd be able to participate in the project. Come when you want to. You pay for your meals if you come, but it's only $25 a month. Very easy for them to do that. And the other thing was it became a safety net for us as well, because when the person decided to leave because they didn't have time or they didn't want to spend the money, we got to be able to say, "Hey, why don't you just stick around and stay in the club, and we'll just drop your dues to $75 a quarter instead of $200. We kept 2 people in our club who would have left that year because of that. And then I mixed it up every week. You didn't know what I was going to do. It wasn't just a standard thing. Everybody was kind of curious and always wanted to be engaged. You know, what's Ron going to do next week? And I didn't let them know. So you had to be there to see it. And they got to participate in some wild and crazy things, and they enjoyed it. But the big thing was that Rotary no longer was stale. It was fresh. It was exciting. It was fun. It was something you wanted to talk to people about. Hey, you need to come see what we're going to do. I have no clue what it's going to be, but here's some of the crazy stuff we've done. All of a sudden, people are talking, and now that they're talking, boom, Rotary's exciting. So I'll turn it back over to Patrick, but just to let you know, we did hit our +10. We did +11 that year, and we started something, and one of the other clubs, I believe Patrick's club, Crescent, actually took this model and implemented it this past year, and they've what was it, Patrick? Maybe +15, +20. What did they end up doing?
With the satellite club, about +27.
+27. So it does work.
Yes, this is a workable model. I wanted you to have this example as something that you can use in your districts and take to your clubs. And Ron, thank you so much for your presentation. Next up is George Robertson Burnett. George is my counterpart in Zone 34. He's the Rotary coordinator and a dear friend. He is from District 6890 in Lakeland, Florida. He was a member of the first class governors in 2013-14 and is a past and upcoming Florida Pets Chair. As I mentioned, is Zone 34, and he still thinks he's kind of a rock star because he was featured in the Rotarian here recently. So
I am.
His head in the entire screen, but we'll give him a shot.
Hey, thanks, Patrick. I really appreciate it. Good afternoon, one and all. I wanted to talk to you briefly. Those of you who know me will be pleased to hear that, about our adaptability. You know, as late as the beginning of March, we can not have imagined the situation we have faced and the response necessary. Who could have predicted that going to a Rotary meeting would appear like a cross between Hollywood Squares and Honey, I Shrunk the Rotarians? Who would have thought that the most used words in a Rotary meeting would be, "Can you hear me?" But the great news is we have adapted. I asked district governors for the years 1920 to respond to me with regard to information regarding how the clubs had responded. And they confirmed that 98% of our clubs down here have stayed engaged. My congratulations to everyone who put in a supreme effort and caused that great adaptability. We cannot predict how long the current situation will continue. And of course, our best guidance is to follow the rules pertaining to our area. We have noted that some clubs have started to return to partial or total personal meetings. Of course, no one should feel pressured to attend if they are in any way uncomfortable. And we must consult members how we should return and when, and give them some options. I think just a side note, we should also congratulate the 2016 COL for their foresight in giving us new rules, which allowed the great flexibility regarding location, style, and frequency. Those options have gained extra validity in our current situation. So we do have some club meeting options. We can, of course, return to 100% in person when allowed or practical. We can also maintain virtual meeting, as we have found some of our members really like this format. Eventually, we may try alternate or flexible approach, one week doing one style and the next week doing another, and so on. Or we can go hybrid, which appears to be the most talked about currently. This is partial in-person with virtual capability and can be adopted during the transition to full meetings, but also may be a permanent feature in future Rotary clubs. The most asked question I've had recently is, how do we do that? So what technology is required for hybrid meetings? Now, you might guess I'm not the person to give you the information, being a bit technically challenged. For instance, you know, when you watch a movie at home and they put on this message to tell you that it's been formatted to fit your screen, I kind of wonder how they know what size of TV I've got. So I'm obviously not the person to give you this information. So it's best I hand over to someone, and it's my pleasure to introduce Marshall Butler, who is not only a technical guru, but also the new Zone 34 Rotary Public Image Coordinator. Congratulations and welcome, Marshall.
Well, thank you, George. I really appreciate that. And it's very exciting to think about the flexibility that Rotary clubs have going into the future. This pandemic has been kind of a tough experiment, but it's one that has really helped us understand and see the opportunities going forward of how we can use technology to have different meeting formats or maybe different membership formats. And this is a pretty big topic to chew into for 5 or 6 minutes. So what I want to do is just kind of briefly talk about some of the things you can do immediately. Number one, it's very important that you just do something. It may not be right. It may not, you may mess it up a couple of times, but when you go back to a hybrid meeting format, give it a try because your members are really going to see the added value that you have if you include a hybrid membership opportunity or a hybrid meeting opportunity. Whether they're old or young, folks may just not be able to make it to Rotary meetings for whatever reason, but the ability to have a hybrid meeting and to stay engaged is so important. And in terms of equipment, you know, use what you have at first. Maybe you have a cell phone, maybe you have an extra laptop, a projector, a microphone. Just find what the club has in terms of assets and resources and take a look and see if you can cobble together a solution and then possibly continue to evolve that solution and improve on it and make it a better experience because you really want it to be a great experience for everyone, whether you're in the club meeting or you're remote. It's very important that you have good sound. People will give you a break, a pass on video, but if you have bad sound, it's really going to cause people to tune out and to disengage. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to jump over here to a web page that's on the Rotary Zones 33 and 34 website. If you go to www.rotaryshares.org/streaming, this is going to take you straight to this page on our Rotary Zone website. And what you'll find here is it's a quick blog post that kind of talks about the opportunity that we have. It also links to a fabulous document that was compiled by Assistant Rotary Coordinator in Zone 33, Terry Weaver. And this document is really a starting guide to help you kind of look at the various options that are available as you start out. Now, I'm going to click real quick over here to using the wrong mouse. All right, so I'm going to click over here if I can find. Let's see. Here we go. So we have the two. Oh my goodness, I'm using a different computer that's not next to me, and there we go. Okay, so we have two setups. The first one is streaming only, and that is this is kind of something you would do right as you're getting started if you don't have a webcam or a projector. And this is really just kind of remote people looking into your club meeting. This is a podium mic that is connected to the sound system at the facility, and then a remote mic that is tapped into a Zoom call with a webcam. And what you're doing essentially is you're just allowing folks outside of your meeting to look into that meeting. You know, this is a great start, and it truly allows people to continue to view a Rotary meeting. But what we want is we want true engagement. We want folks to feel like they're a part of the Rotary meeting, whether they're there physically or they're, you know, anywhere else on Earth. So that second option that we have down there is kind of that first step towards a true hybrid meeting. And that is connecting to a projector, connecting to a speaker so that Rotarians that are virtual can speak to the room. They can also project the kind of Brady Bunch grid up onto the screen so folks in the club meeting can see the folks that are remote. And this truly is the first step towards that hybrid meeting format because, again, we want it to be a great experience for everyone, and truly believe this is an opportunity for folks to really feel like they're a part of the club, whether they're there or not. Now, like I said, this is a whole lot to talk about in terms of how to do it, the platforms, the equipment, and stuff like that. So at the bottom of this page, you're going to see a Register Now button. And what that is that's a brief survey. I'd like to survey a lot of you all to find out what clubs are currently streaming. What are you using? Do we have any success stories? And the idea is, out of this, we're going to put together a quick webinar and some instructional videos to supplement the guide that was put together by Terry Weaver, and you know, really help you go through this journey. And so those questions that you may be able to answer in that survey are going to help us understand what are the challenges, what are the roadblocks. Maybe you're George and you just don't know which end of the cord goes into the computer. I love you, George. But you know, how can we help you all as we make this journey into a hybrid meeting format? So please click that Register Now, fill out that survey, let us know if you have a success story, let us know what questions you have. And as soon as we get this webinar on the schedule, we will let you know, and hope to see you all there. And we'll include, you know, a lot of the folks that helped Terry put together that document. We have folks in Zone 3 and Zone 34 that have done this. We have a couple of clubs. I've seen, I was a speaker at the Rotary Club of Indy Atlantic in 6930, and they're already doing this, and they're doing it really well. And it was a great experience. I was a remote presenter, but I could interact and felt like I was a part of the room, and I could see the screen and see what was going on. So if you could, click this button, Register Now, let us know what you're doing, and we'll be happy to help you all as we kind of go through this journey and maintain the flexibility of Rotary and create hybrid club meetings formats. Back to you, Patrick, for any question and answers.
Stephanie, we're going to let you take it here.
Okay, we'll take a look. We just have a minute or two. If there are any questions, if you want to post them to the chat, we'll be happy to answer them. I also note that Patrick and Ron have both provided an email address for you. And George and Marshall, I'll ask if you may want to post something as well. I know people will have a lot of questions if they're not putting them on the chat. So we hope that they will reach out to you. So I have a question here. It says, what's the difference in live streaming versus Zoom? Marshall, I think that's for you.
Yeah, sure. So live streaming really is Zoom. It's video conferencing. Live streaming is the ability to use a lot of different platforms, technology to stream whatever is going on, whether it's a Rotary meeting or a concert or any sort of event, and make people feel like they're a part of it, even if they're not there. So they're pretty much synonymous.
Okay, great. Thanks for the answer. Any other questions right now for our panelists? Okay, once again, I want to thank you, gentlemen. I got so many takeaways from your information. Patrick, I love the service gene idea, and I know that, you know, a lot that we heard about today will help us to continue to nurture our service gene. Ron, I'm never going to be able to look at a four-way test banner again. I'm thankful to you for reminding me to help our guests understand that we're not praying to the yellow banner. George, when I'm on a Zoom meeting, I'm always going to think about Honey, I Shrunk the Rotarians. And Marshall, I love Do Something. You know, it's absolutely important. You know, the statistic that you shared about how many Rotary clubs around the world have gone virtual is great, but I wonder about the ones who haven't done anything. So it's important to do something. Thank you so much for that presentation, all four of you. It was just outstanding, awesome. We got a lot of great comments in the chat window. I'm going to turn it over to Peter now, who is going to tell you more about our program in August and then close our session today. Peter.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. And if I may add my thanks to the panelists, to Patrick, to Ron, to George, to Marshall. Great contributions, a lot of good practical advice and a lot of compliments on the chat box. So we're going to meet monthly from now on. As you know, the next Zoomformation event will be on Monday, August the 3rd. You might like to diary that date, Monday, August the 3rd. And the focus will be on new clubs and why they matter. This is a different aspect of the membership challenge. This is a result of the Grow Rotary initiative that President Mark Maloney started during his year. And we have established a whole new structure with innovative advocates, and you're going to hear more about that on August the 3rd. So please be sure to tune in for a lot more practical information on how to go about expanding into new clubs. And now, as we do, we normally finish with the four-way test, so I invite you to join Steffi and myself in reciting the four-way test. Of all the things we think, say, and do, is it the
truth?
Is it fair,
is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build
goodwill, better friendships?
Will it be beneficial?
To all concerned?
Thank you. Have a good week. Have a good month. And we'll see you all on August the 3rd. Bye now.